Jonathan Pollard, as you noted, was arrested in 1985 and charged with spying for Israel. He did not do it for ideology, which is what he wants us to all believe. He did it for money. They paid him cash, just like the Soviets used to do with their spies, or the Chinese. He did it for cash. And he gave the Israeli government tens of thousands of pages of documents classified at the top secret level, not just run-of-the-mill secret CIA documents or confidential State Department documents, top secret military intelligence and NSA documents the Israelis gave to the Soviet Union in exchange for the Soviets then releasing Russian Jews to emigrate to Israel. So it's not just that he spied for Israel and Israel learned our secrets. Israel took those secrets and traded the secrets to the Soviet Union, our greatest enemy on the planet at the time. He's lucky that he wasn't executed for what he did, because God knows Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were executed probably for less, at least in the case of Ethel Rosenberg. So for our ambassador, the American ambassador, to, number one, meet with Jonathan Pollard, number two, to meet with him off the books, which is another thing that we learned in this revelation today. And to number three, not get the permission of the White House or the Office of the Secretary of State is unforgivable. I have worked in American embassies around the world for half of my adult life, and I know how business is conducted, especially business by American ambassadors. If you're going to meet with anybody that's even a little bit controversial, you have to cable the Secretary of State and say, Mr. Secretary, I'm thinking of having a meeting with Jonathan Pollard. Here's what I intend to say. We're not going to inform the media, or we are going to inform the media. If the request is that sensitive, it will be referred to the National Security Council, specifically to the National Security Advisor, who's supposed to be the adult in the room. In this case, Secretary Rubio is both Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. But then the White House weighs in and would say, absolutely not. It doesn't promote or advance American foreign policy in any way, and it doesn't help the President of the United States in any way. Another thing that we learned today is that this meeting didn't take place yesterday. This meeting took place in July, and it was never on Ambassador Huckabee's calendar, so it was never leaked to the press. Finally, someone who knew about it leaked it. And what we learned from the New York Times and the Washington Post this morning was that the CIA station chief in Jerusalem was apoplectic that this happened, and there were at least 3 whistleblowers inside the embassy that so objected to it that they finally went to the media and said that Ambassador Huckabee had done this.
It's about the U.S. Embassy in Israel and what that would look like from a security perspective, welcoming him into U.S. sovereign territory. And that's what that is at the end of the day.
Someone who wants American
Sure
bombed.
is.
That's a good question.
You know, he's literally inside of U.S. sovereign territory in a foreign country. That's what embassies are, right, at the end of the day. And he's a traitor to the United States, and he's there. I mean, shouldn't he have been arrested when he walked in? I mean, what sort of security would happen?
You know, that was my first thought, that if I were Pollard, I would have been afraid to enter the American embassy because I would have been afraid to be arrested. With all that he said, advocating using nuclear weapons against the United States, I would consider him to be a threat, and I would have arrested him. When I've worked in embassies around the world, whenever there was a VIP visitor for a meeting, everybody in the building knows it. Everybody. And it turns out that Ambassador Huckabee and the deputy chief of mission approved of this visit and met with him without telling the CIA, and as I said, without cabling the State Department and telling the Secretary of State, we're going to do this really, really controversial thing, and we just want you to know beforehand that this is what we're doing. I would ask Ambassador Huckabee, what possible good for American foreign policy did you think this was going to accomplish? And my only response remains that Ambassador Huckabee should resign. And if he doesn't resign, he should be fired. In all the years that Jonathan Pollard was in prison, he was in maximum security prisons. The last one was in Butner, North Carolina. Every single time that an Israeli prime minister visited the United States, they would ask for Jonathan Pollard's release. And every single time they were told, no, he won't be released. Bill Clinton toyed with the idea briefly of releasing him in the late 1990s, and George Tenet and all of the heads of the intelligence agencies in the U.S. government said that they would resign if he were to be released. And then the idea went away. So he did his full 30 years. but then all of a sudden gets VIP treatment at the American Embassy in Jerusalem.
Gosh. Unbelievable. This is unbelievable. This is not a story that President Trump needs right over his head right now, for sure.